Hello, 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 and welcome to Let's Meet. My name is Elizabeth Ingero, and today we will be having our guest Maria Tatti, who'll be coming in today to talk to us about starting a business in the UK. So don't forget to ask all the questions that you want to ask tonight. We are going to be on for just under an hour, so get your questions in as soon as you can. So once again, I'm Elizabeth Ingero, and we'll be having Maria Tatti this evening on Let's Meet. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of you out there who are in paid employment, who have that burning desire to create something for yourself, have that burning desire to be able to contribute something to the world while having a business, while creating an income for yourself. Now, this is something that has been, heightened and been highlighted, especially now that people have been at home and had time to stop and reflect on life, and what they want from life, what they desire from life, what it is that they can do, the skills that they can offer to the world. And this is a very, very similar story all around the world. But today we're going to have this story from a UK perspective. Maria Tatti was born in Cyprus and she lived there with her family. She decided to come over to the UK to study in 2014. After studying, she decided to work in the UK, but that desire started to creep up in her, that she had something more to offer, that she had something that she could contribute to the world. Now, paid employment is good, right? But there are some people in this world, on this earth, that have that burning desire that follows them around, whatever job they're doing, whatever their, how well they are at their work, how good they are at their work. They still have that niggling sensation that there is more to life and there's something that they can add to society and something that they can call their own. Now, Maria Tatti decided not to ignore that feeling. She decided to go out on a limb, take a few risks, and start her own company, Ocravvings. So I bet you're wondering, what type of business is Ocravvings? I specifically left out the type of business just so that Maria could tell us exactly what it is that she does and why she decided to go into that field. So hopefully she'll be able to share some of her experiences. She'll be able to share how she set up the business, the pitfalls that she's faced, the highlights, and some of the tips that she might want to pass on to you as well. She'll be available to answer that. So why don't you just put your questions in the comment box and I'll be able to pass that on to Maria. But without further ado, let us welcome Maria Tatti. Hello, Maria. How are you?
Hello. Hi.
Can you hear me?
Everyone. Yeah. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you. I can see you, and you're looking very, very well today.
Thank you. Same to you. Thanks for
Thank you.
inviting me.
No,
Very
thank you for
excited.
coming. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. You've got a business to run. You've got other commitments that you are tied to. So we really, really appreciate it when people see the value in sharing their experiences with others. There are some people that are at the same stage that you are in. They've started a business, they're going through some of the issues you're going through. And there are other people that really, they just have that burning desire to do something more than what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
So Maria, before we kick off, I always like to sort of try and find out who the person is, because a lot of the times we look at what a person does for an understanding of who they are. But I really want to find out who you are, your character, your values. If you could just explain in one paragraph who you are. So I'm a person who, complete that sentence.
Okay. I would say I'm a person who chases a lot of my dreams. I don't like to give up easily. I keep pushing myself, even if I believe that something is being completed. If it's not completed to the standard that I would be happy with, then I want to keep pushing myself and pushing myself to make it even better. And that comes with obviously my business as well as my personal life, my relationships, personal relationships, professional relationships, family relationships. So anything that has to do with creating something better, becoming the better version of yourself,
Yes.
whatever that means. Just keep pushing yourself. And also, if there's something that you're passionate about, something that, you know, it's something inside you that you think that I'm thirsty for more, then keep going, because one day you're going to look back and you're going to say, at least I tried, and this is the outcome, whatever the outcome is. So yeah.
Oh, thank you for that. So you're a doer. You're a person that likes to get things done.
Think
And a,
so.
yeah. So where do you think that came from? Where, where does that spirit, that can-do attitude, where did that come from?
um I mean, I come from a very not traditional in the broader sense, traditional in terms of, I always looked up to my family, always looked up to my mom. My mom's mom, she was a very powerful, very energetic, very um, progressive woman. And she always wanted to do the best that she could, to provide the best that she could for her children and her husband. She had multiple jobs and she was running her own business at the same time, which was her passion. Um, and despite all the difficulties and all the, um, the difficulties of life that we all experience, she kept pushing and she kept going. And it was her passion. And I think I always looked up to them, both my mom and my grandmother. So I think growing up, it was something that was part of me as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to hear the impact of women in society.
Yeah,
You know, the grandmother, the
yeah,
mothers, the sisters,
yeah.
people actually, laying down the path for the next generation to follow. So
Mm-hmm.
having those hardworking, industrious women out there is a real blessing. And if you have a few of those in your life, just remember to be grateful and thankful to them.
Yeah,
So that's a
it's
bit of background. So that was in Cyprus.
yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
was
My
it like
grandmother
growing?
actually started her company in London, very
Oh,
close to where I started my company, and I didn't know. And I recently found out, and I was surprised. Yeah, it's amazing how life works.
so the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Then you're
No,
following in
no,
your grandmother's
yeah,
footsteps.
yeah.
That's really nice. So, in terms of business, then, that's sort of you, your character. You're a go-getter. You like to do things and get things done. In terms of business, why did you not just continue to be in a job and get an income, spend what you needed to spend, maybe save a little? Why did you specifically decide to start a business?
Um, that's a great question, and I don't know if there's a one answer to it. Um, it's a very hard decision to make, um, because everyone needs to live. Everyone has bills that they need to pay. But like I said, and like you said at the beginning, follow what you like, what you love, do what makes you happy. And there is this sensation when time goes by and you're feeling like there's something that you need to achieve and you haven't achieved it. And I was at that point in my life, in my previous job, when I felt that I wasn't going where I wanted to go. So I sat down, I took some notes, and I said, okay, this is the time, and I'm going to try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. At least I know I tried it.
Yes.
And that's how it all started.
Okay. So now I'm just going to, because still our viewers are in the dark as to what you do.
Yeah.
So just before I continue our conversation, I'm just going to bring up your website and just give the people that are watching a little an idea of what Ocravvings is. So just in the chat, I want you to, if you haven't clicked on the link already, I'd like you to just say in the chat what you think Ocravvings, what kind of business you think Ocravvings is, just before I bring up the webpage. So just quickly in the chat, what do you think Ocravvings is? What kind of company is it? I wonder what suggestions you'll get there, and if any of them are right.
It's either going to be a very straightforward answer, or people are going to be, not sure what that means.
What could it stand for? Yeah. So any suggestions in the chat? I can't, I hope my chat here is live. I can't see any suggestions in the chat, so I'll just bring up the website if no one...
I think it's not live, the chat.
If no one can guess. So let's bring up the website. Here we go. So this is Ocravvings. And already I'm sure some mouths are watering right now. Everything in moderation. So tell me a bit about the name Ocravvings. Why did you choose Ocravvings? What gave you the inspiration? And what was the next best one? What was the one that you thought, oh, it could have been something else?
Okay. So as you can imagine, and as you can tell, I'm a foodie. I love food. I love any type of food. I like international food, especially desserts. I don't remember the last time I went to a restaurant and I didn't order dessert at the end of my meal, even though I was full. So yeah, and there's always this word in my head, craving something to eat, craving something sweet. So I thought I might name it Cravings, but then I thought Cravings might be a bit too common, and I wanted to have some degree of uniqueness. So I thought maybe I should put, oh, that's a craving. Oh, Cravings. So that's how I started it.
Okay, well, the cakes on here look delicious. And they look like you've taken a lot of time and effort to actually, put a craft. There's a craft to it. You've thought about the design, you've thought about the colors, you've thought about how to make it appealing. So very well done with that, because one of the hurdles I think some people might face is things like how to create a website, how to get images that will work, that portray what you're trying to deliver. So later on, we'll get some tips from you on how people can go about doing that, if you don't mind.
Perfect, no problem at all.
So started off with sort of where you're from, your value sets, your character, and then moving on to why you decided to start your own business, which is, great. You had that in your bloodline. You've seen the example of some really strong, powerful women in your life, being your grandmother and your mother. And then you thought, do you know what? What's the harm? If I can do it, then great, I'll benefit from it.
Exactly.
If I don't, then, well, it's a learning experience. What's the worst that could happen? Yeah. I'll learn from it. So you've then gone on. What were the first steps that you took to actually set up the business?
Yeah. So the first step, which obviously is the boring bit, is to do some research. Well, for some people it's boring. It was boring for me. And research could be researching online, interviewing other professionals in that industry or in a different industry, gathering information, going into different shops. I was going into many different bakeries and different sweet dessert shops. And I was trying to get a feel of how the business works, how to approach clients. And then obviously I had to go online and see other businesses and compare prices, because it's so many things, so many little things that you have to think about. Yes. But at the end of the day, it's a very big task that you need to do before you start your business, because you don't want to publish your website or prepare your menus and then change your mind, because it's going to be even harder. So it's best if you take your time at the beginning, to make sure that everything's on point before you actually go out and publish and let people know and spend, you know, a subsequent amount of money to create something that you're not going to use in the end.
Yes.
And then
That's very
obviously
good
after
advice.
that, you start creating, and as you go along, you start to adjust everything and make it into your own personal style and the way you like it, the way you imagine it to be.
Yes.
And it might not come out exactly the way you want it to, but if you carry on, then it might become something even better.
You can fine tune
Because,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the big company beginning with A that delivers next day delivery, they started off as a bookshop, didn't they?
Exactly.
You know, and then they've diversified,
Exactly.
they've read the markets, they've seen what can happen. So, you know, just as you say, first of all, it's the research. And I think that's really key for business owners is it's getting the research down. But at the same time, not procrastinating, using research
Yeah.
as an excuse.
No.
Because you could
And
stay at that in that place of just researching.
yeah, and one other point that I didn't mention, write down a business plan. At first, it sounded silly to me. Why would I need to write something that I already have in my head? But
Yes.
actually, that writing down your ideas and the steps that you need to take is putting your mind and your thoughts into something more niche, and then you start crossing out all the things that you've completed, so then you have a clear understanding of what you have to do next. So that's
So it's more
also very
focused.
important. More focused, yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Now we have a treat for our viewers today, because
Yes.
since you are a baker, I did ask you beforehand if you wouldn't mind making us something simple while we chatted. So those of you watching, just make sure you've got your tissue nearby, as you've seen the website, some of those delicious dishes. So we've got a choice of two things. And we've got, so what two things would you like the viewers to choose from? Because they're going to vote now by putting it in the chat what they want. So what two things can you propose that they can choose from?
So one thing we can make today is a biscuit, which is neither sweet or salty. So then you can adjust it. I can show you how to make the base, and then you can adjust it in the way that you like. So you can either make it a savory biscuit or a sweet biscuit. You can add things into it and make it more interesting. Or I can show you how to make truffles from leftover cake or leftover biscuits, or my mom used to do this with Christmas cake, leftover Christmas cake and dessert. So she used to mix everything together and she used to turn them into truffles.
Don't tell mummy's secret. You don't tell your mum's secret.
No,
You never know.
it's not my mom's secret. It's my secret.
It's your secret now.
I took the idea from my mom and I adjusted it.
So in the chat, just vote whether you would like truffles or biscuit. Truffles or biscuit. Now put it in, either type truffles or biscuit, and we'll count how many we have of each. And Maria's going to go into the kitchen while we continue to chat to make either truffles or biscuits. So there we go. Have your vote now.
Let me take you into my kitchen.
Start going into the kitchen, yeah. So and let me just make sure that I can see the chat as well. Okay, I can see some things coming. Oh, look, it's even biscuit, truffle. I better do the count. So we've got one for biscuit, two for truffles. There we go. I better put my vote in now as well. I might have the casting vote, so I better type my suggestion in there. Truffles 3, biscuit 1. Last 30 seconds, truffles, biscuit. Truffles, biscuit. What would you like to see Maria Tatti prepare as we chat? This is a skill that you're learning. So, you know, you never know, you might be asked to attend a party and you could bring it along as a little snack to add to the dishes that are on offer. Truffles. Oh, I think we'll take truffles there because I want truffles as well. So I don't
Awesome.
think I've ever made a truffle whereas I have made biscuits. So
We
okay,
might
so
actually
Maria,
have time for both because the truffles are really easy. So if we have time, then I can quickly show you how to make the biscuits as well.
Laurie Myrie says biscuits all the way. So oh look, and she's put biscuit twice. That's cheating, Laurie. Okay, so let's go for truffles, and
Yeah.
then if we have time before the hour's up, then we can fit
I don't know
in.
if you can see me properly though.
We can see your hands, and if you move back slightly, yeah, we can see your eyes just about.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
First thing you need to do before you start touching anything in your kitchen is wash your hands.
Great food
I
and
cannot
hygiene.
stress that enough. So first thing you need to do, wash your hands, especially at this time. Don't forget.
Don't worry, Laurie. I think we might be able to squeeze it in. We'll see.
So
Okay, so Maria, as you're sort of just preparing, just keep on
yeah.
doing what you're doing and then tell us what you're doing as you go along. I just still want to quiz you to find out, to get as much information as possible for our viewers. And if you have any questions in the chat about business in the UK or setting up a business, the difficulties, the benefits, then go ahead and put that into the chat. Okay, so what are you putting inside, just so that I know?
So this is leftover cake that I had in
Oh,
my fridge from a couple of days ago.
okay. So
So
leftover cake.
any scraps that you guys have, don't throw them away. You don't need to do that. So I've got my cake here. My cake was actually, it had a lot of chocolate in it and a lot of cream. So all I need to do is basically use my hands that I've just washed properly and just break it up in, crumbs.
So would this work with a sponge cake?
Yeah, definitely. It will
Oh,
work with a it's actually it's supposed to be a sponge cake, and
okay.
you're just breaking it up with your hands. But because mine had a lot of cream, it's actually very moist. So
Yes.
if you're using a drier cake like a sponge cake or a Christmas cake, it's best to use like a liquid to make it more soft and moist. But because mine is already very moist,
What
I'm
sort
not
of
gonna.
liquid? What sort of liquid would you put
You can
in the
add
sponge cake?
chocolate sauce, like if you take
Melted chocolate?
melted chocolate and melt it and just mix it with your cake.
Okay.
And then all you have to do is what I'm gonna do, which I find always an easier way. If you have an ice cream scoop or cupcake scoop, so you're making even truffles, and then you take it in your hand, you make it into the shape that you like, and then choose whatever toppings that you want to use.
Okay.
I've got here some nuts.
What type of nuts are those?
So I've got some chopped almonds as well as pistachios, and I think
mixed
the
together.
combination mixed together. So you take them, you chop them very well into however small or big you like them to be, and then you roll your truffles in like this.
If you could lift the bowl up a little bit. Okay, yeah.
You can see.
Yes, we can.
I'll put them in a container so you guys can see, or a nice platter.
I mean, that looks really, really straightforward, obviously, because you've got the leftover cake.
Yeah.
And would that be it? Would that be the truffle? Someone, you'd place that, decorate that, and then someone could just go in and just.
Yeah, that's it basically. You just use your hands. You break up the cake, you add whatever sauce you like. You can add milk, you can add cream. If you don't have chocolate, you can add caramel.
And change the flavor however you want.
Change the flavor, yeah, and then roll it into whatever toppings you like.
So, Maria, now going back onto the business side of things, Did you, when you're doing your research, you're doing your background checks on what other people were doing, did you attend any courses, or was this something that you always knew how to do in terms of baking?
It was always something that I knew how to do, from watching my family, watching my grandmother and my mom.
Yes.
I was always spending time in the kitchen, especially with my mom. Having a long day at school and not time to do homework. Um, you know, I think baking was one of the reasons that I didn't have time to do whatever else I had to do. But then at the same time, it was a chance for me to bond with my mom,
Yeah.
because she used to spend a lot of time at work, and then she would come home, and she had to cook. So I remember spending time with her, while she was cooking and helping me with my homework. Um, and then I remember spending time with her, over the holidays. We were making Christmas cakes and Christmas cookies and things like that for the family. So that was another opportunity for me to learn from
To
her,
learn. Yeah.
which was amazing. And I always associate holidays with that smell of fresh baked cookies and Christmas cakes. So yeah.
The smell of nutmeg and cinnamon.
Nutmeg, cinnamon, exactly. Exactly. The liquor. I don't know if our viewers like alcohol.
That's a lot of alcohols used in Christmas cake, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
You can actually add alcohol into your truffles. I forgot to mention. You can add Baileys. You can add rum. Um, you can add amaretto. Whatever you like. Whatever you have in hand
To get the flavor.
to get the flavor. But don't feed them to your children if you
Yeah.
put alcohol.
Now, the thing I find with the what you've just said in terms of you were able to pick up skills, life skills that you've
Yeah.
now used in your business from your family, from observing, from taking in the knowledge that was available to you growing up as a child. Now, I'm sure the viewers out there can think of someone in their family or some opportunity that they might have access to learn and to broaden their horizons. A lot
Yeah.
of the times we think, oh, I've got to go on a specific course, or I have to get a certificate to show that I can do this, X, Y, and Z. There are lots of resources out there within your family. And I mean, even on the internet as well, these days, you can
Absolutely.
learn how to do lots of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did go to university. I spent many years of my life in university, and I don't regret going, because I met amazing people. I met very inspirational people, and I wouldn't take that experience back. And I think education, you should have an education. You should go to university, because, like you said earlier, you need to have something to fall back on in case your business, your passion doesn't work. I'm not trying to discourage people, but it's a possibility. So if you have a qualification, you have a better start. You have a better start in life, and you always have a safety net. If that makes sense.
Yes,
Um,
that's assuming that
so
they're able to get work within that line of
within,
employment.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, what about the time spent, let's say, for example, at university? Because there are other routes nowadays in terms of technical colleges, actually learning on the job, apprenticeships, and things like that.
Mhm.
Your the time that you spent at university, why do you think you started doing the business after you finished university? And would you do things differently if you had the opportunity to do it again?
Um, when I went to uni, I think a lot of people can relate to that. Hopefully not too many, but I know a few people, that once you finish school, there's always almost this rush to go to university, or there's this expectation, that comes with it. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think once you graduate and you go out in the real world and you start working, you might then realize, but this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life, for different reasons. For some people, it could be, I'm not passionate about this, or for some others, it could be, but how am I going to expect, myself to have a family when I am also doing this?
Working these hours. Yeah.
Working these hours. And for some people, that's a reason to look for something else. Yeah.
But could you have started this business while you were at university? Do you think you would have been able to make it work? And if so, how would you have gone about it?
Perhaps. I think I didn't have the time in university to start this because I was already busy with assignments and going to my lectures and having a student life, because that's important as well. So I think I could have, but at the same time, I needed to go through the motions and through the different experiences of having a full-time job and trying to make it in the real world, and also coming from a different background, a different education, coming into the UK, into a completely different educational system from where I was used to. It's a challenge on its own. So
to add on top of that, starting a business might have been for you. You weren't maybe mentally prepared at that point in time.
Yeah. So I think,
The truffles, a message here saying that the truffles are coming out well, so we can't wait to see the finished products and then maybe start on the biscuits. But we have got another comment here which is saying it's great hearing Maria's journey, and for someone who's missed out on learning from parents how to bake, is baking something that anybody can easily learn to do? That's a question for you, Maria.
Okay. Of course. I mean, some people are scared to try things in the kitchen, and I understand. I mean, I'm scared to try a lot of things, and other people make fun of me when I tell them, but I'm scared or I've never had that experience. And it's understandable, but we're so lucky to have the internet and Google and all these blogs online that you could take some ideas from. And especially for mothers, having to look after a family and having a full-time job and having to cook something healthy for your children, it's a struggle. And I think it's very important to learn how to bake and cook meals that are healthy for us and our children, and at the same time easy to make, because you don't want to spend 3 hours just baking a cake or making a dinner for your family, because then when are you going to have time to actually see or talk to your family?
Yes.
We have to be realistic as well. So yeah.
Okay, so go ahead, anybody in the chat who really wants to learn how to bake, online resources that you can learn from, and once again, you've just got to do it. If you don't try it and make mistakes and get your soggy bottoms and cakes that are falling in, then you won't know what to do next time to make it better. So thank you for that encouragement, Maria. So can we have a look at those truffles now? Because I think those are done. And then I'm going to go back into the business side of things with you.
Okay. So these are the truffles.
Oh, it looks like you've put 1,000. So you've put nuts on there. Have you also put...
So these ones are covered in sprinkles.
Sprinkles. There we go.
And here we have the nuts, the almonds and pistachios. But you could use whatever you like. You could use cocoa powder, or you could use you can dip them in chocolate and then let them dry, or put them in the fridge for a couple of hours just to get them a bit harder. You could put coconut flakes on them, whatever you like, or you can even leave them without any coatings.
Just have plain, because I think that's how I've seen them is the plain truffles. And when you look at them, I thought they were just pure chocolate. I thought it was
No.
just full on chocolate. So it's great seeing you actually make it. It's one of those things that you eat something, you're like, oh, okay. And I will be trying out the sponge version because we make sponge. Sponge is our go-to thing to make. So just adding a little bit of moisture with milk. So thank you for educating us on that. We've got a question in the chat. I'm asking you, and just a quick question. Do you sell truffles on the website?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
I used to, but then there wasn't a big demand. So it depends on, and sometimes it depends on the season as well. So I have different flavors and different types of cakes depending on the season.
On the season, if it's Christmas time, for example.
If it's Christmas time, yeah, it's something that I like to put on during Christmas, because then I can use different flavors, different Christmas flavors. But yeah.
And the other question is, are there vegetarian options on your website?
There are. I used to have a vegan truffle, which is 100% vegan, no sugar, no preservatives, all natural. So yeah, but it's not on at the moment.
So in terms of the vegan options or the vegetarian options on the website, is it quite clear for them to see that this is a vegan option, or this is a, whatever option that they're looking for?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I have a vegan choice that you click on. There's a different menu, a different list of vegan cakes and cupcakes and biscuits that you could choose from.
Yes, I think I did see that on your website.
Yeah.
So now let's go into the nitty gritty of the business side of things, because I mean, there's some things that are preventing people from taking that leap and that step to starting a business. So how did you actually just go from, this is in my mind, I've done my research, I know exactly what I want to do. What were the next few steps that you took, or the next few steps you would advise someone to take if they want to start a business?
Okay. Before I answer your question, are we okay for me to carry on and make?
Yes, you can carry on making the biscuits, because I know that Laurie's going to be making some noise in the chat if you don't fulfill that biscuit order.
No problem. I'm just gonna have to get my bowl. Sorry. Okay.
So Laurie would like to know an easy recipe that she could make with her daughter. And I think what you're about to make here with the biscuits would be an easy recipe. And she did say at the start that you can adapt it to make it a savory biscuit or a sweet biscuit if you want to. So what are we starting off with?
So this is 2 cups of self-raising flour.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm using self-raising flour because it's easier. If you don't have self-raising flour, you can use plain flour, but make sure you adjust it and you add 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1.5 of soda, baking soda. Because basically the difference between plain flour and self-raising flour is self-raising flour has the baking soda and the baking powder. So for me, it's easier. I just buy the self-raising flour, so I don't have to adjust it after. But if you don't have it, just try and add those 2 as well. And this is 1 teaspoon of sugar and 3/4 of teaspoon of salt. You basically
so 1 teaspoon of sugar.
1 teaspoon.
And the recipe is going to be uploaded onto this video. If you come back to the video, you'll see the recipe at the bottom of the video as well later on. So you don't have to remember this now. You can just get the recipe and recreate it at home.
Yes. And it doesn't, you don't really have to follow exactly the same measurements. If you have a bit less, it doesn't really matter, because you can always adjust it. And I'm going to just show you an example in a minute. Of how I made it the first time, and it didn't come out perfectly, because it also depends on how cold or how hot your ingredients are.
Okay.
You could have a butter that's quite cold. So
So
then
that's butter. How much butter is that?
that is
2
6
spoons?
tablespoons of butter,
6
unsalted
tablespoons.
butter.
Oh, it didn't look like that. It
Yeah.
looked like a lot less.
No, it's actually 6, but
6, okay.
that's my tablespoon.
Ah.
I'm just using a tablespoon, literally. So then
So
what
we're
you
gonna
need to do is basically use your fingers and just work through exactly like this.
So you're lifting it up and pinching it as well to create the crumbs. Okay.
Like this. Yeah.
So what were the steps then that you took to actually starting the business, from doing your research, having it in your head?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So then, like I said, the first step was research.
Mm-hmm.
You complete your research, you write down, your plan, and then you start writing down your ideas. And then you start executing your ideas, beginning from, if, for example, you want to have an online shop like I did. I had to make some research about finding the right platform and the right company that would create my website.
Okay. And which company did you use for that, so that we can
So
put
the
that as well?
company is called GoDaddy.
GoDaddy, yes.
GoDaddy, and GoDaddy can actually also give you the option to buy your domain name. So your domain name is basically your business, your name. So with any company, small or big company, you need to buy your name. Otherwise, you're not legally the owner of that name. And
Yes.
usually once every year, you need to renew that, and you need to pay again.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't lose your rights, basically. And I think there is a story about a very big company, I'm not going to use the name now, that they actually didn't buy their name. I think they
Oh
were late
dear.
for a couple of minutes.
Mm.
And someone went online and they bought the name.
Wow.
So then they had to take them to court. They had to pay a big amount of money to be
To
able
get
to
the name
buy their
back.
name again.
Wow.
So yeah. So
So that
then
is a really good tip then. If you want to have a website, then make sure that you have the rights to that website.
Yes, exactly.
So that later on down the line, you don't have any hiccups where you've got to redirect people to a different site because you've lost the rights to use that web page. So what did you just put in there? Was that milk?
So I've added half a cup of milk.
Okay.
Now you might not have milk. You might have sour cream or yogurt, or you might have cream cheese,
Oh.
whatever you have. I'm using milk because I just find it a lot easier to work with, and also they don't come out too rich.
Mm.
I like a cookie that is not very rich.
And milk is readily available in a lot of homes as well, isn't it? So it's for those that are asking for a simple recipe, that's
because for these types of cookies, you also have to think about your fillings. So if you're adding cheese in it, you can add Parmesan cheese, you can add halloumi cheese, you can add
and these are for a cookie, a biscuit.
So it's an American biscuit recipe, and it's quite doughy. It's not the traditional biscuit that we have in mind. It's more like an American biscuit, which is quite buttery.
Ah, right. Okay.
And
Yes.
quite doughy. But then you, like I said before,
So when you instead of it snapping, it sort of tears apart rather
Yeah.
than a snap. It's not as crunchy as what we.
No, it's not. It's definitely not crunchy.
Okay.
But it depends on the amount of butter that you use.
Mm.
So because I don't like it to be too heavy, I only used 6 tablespoons, which is not a lot, trust me. So yeah, it doesn't snap as much, but it's still quite crumbly, which
Okay.
is the consistency that you want. And it's very close to a scone.
Ah, right. Okay.
It's
But
very
just a
similar
thinner
to a scone.
version.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, back to the business again, because really we want to get as much from you as possible as you're going through this life experience yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say then? You've done the research, make sure you get, if you want to have an online presence, make sure you actually get the website. So with the GoDaddy site that you use, do they give you the option to be able to sell your products, or is that something that you had to do separately?
So you choose from the options that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So GoDaddy, they offered me the option to purchase just the website, which is more like displaying what you have,
Yes,
or the option to have an online shop,
an
which
online
is
shop. Okay.
what I was going for. And then they give you different options for what type of purchases you want to put up there, or payment options. And then they give you recommendations on how to increase the trafficking on your website, so the amount of people that go on
Okay.
your website.
So also they give you some sort of business skills as well, because they're in the industry. They also provide you with that. But it seems like it's
Yeah,
a very straightforward click, click, click. What would you like? What are you looking for? And then as long as you can afford to pay for it, you pay for it, and then you have
yeah,
that there on your system.
yeah.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it's very straightforward, very easy. I'm just
Okay.
running out
So
of breath.
questions
Um,
coming in here. Can you add fillings into the biscuit?
yeah.
You
So
can, okay. And we've had a message here from Andrew Biriri, who is one of our other Let's Meet stars, who did a bit of cooking for us a few weeks ago. He said that it can actually be used for a sandwich.
yeah,
So I'm guessing that you mean you put the biscuit on the top, biscuit on the bottom, and then you can put whatever you want inside as a filling.
yeah, or you can make them a little bit thicker, so then you can cut them in half basically, and
Ah, okay.
just put whatever you want inside.
So would you normally knead this dough by hand, or would you normally use a food processor?
It's best if you do it by hand. If you have a mixer, for my bread, I actually use a mixer
Okay.
because you need a lot of kneading. But for this one, you don't really need to. It's
Okay.
just, I'm just doing this now so that I make sure that everything's incorporated, and I get the consistency that I want, because you want something that is not falling apart like
Yes.
this, but
You want to
also
be able to
something,
shape it properly.
yeah, and
Mm,
something that it's smooth and
okay.
it's more elastic. So
Great
yeah,
tips in baking and in business. So business wise, let's say you've got the website all sorted out, whether you go to sort of one of the sites that people can go to, like GoDaddy or Wix, or whether you go to a specialist site producer like Web4Budget, or any other sort of independent web creators. So once you've
yeah.
actually done that and you've created what it is that you want, how do you then start? How do you start? So let's talk about the creation of the company or the business. How did you decide, or what did you do to actually make it a legal company?
Mm-hmm. So that's another step that you have to be very, very careful about, because
Mm.
you don't want to make any mistakes. I mean, it doesn't happen, and if you're new, you'll get a lot of advice, and usually the government are quite lenient, and they would understand and they would support you. In my case, because I'm handling food, and it's very important, you know, for the hygiene and to have all your equipment that you need, and to make sure that your premises is, you know, to the standard.
Yes.
I obviously had to register my company, which is what other businesses are required to do. But in
Yes.
my case, I had to make sure that I actually have completed the registration for food and hygiene, which is,
Ah,
yeah.
so a
So,
registration, which is, can you explain that a bit more?
so you contact the borough that your, you know, your business is in, or if you're doing it from home, the borough where you live. So then they send you a list of forms that you need to read and complete. And then you book an appointment with them, and they come in and they inspect your premises, basically, and
Premises.
your kitchen.
Kitchen.
Um,
And this
and
is all
then,
before you can start trading.
yes,
Okay.
before you start trading, they would usually ask you to hold an event before, so that you kind of have an idea of what you need to do. That's what happened in my case.
Can you
Um,
explain the hold an event? Hold an event as in to cater for
to
something or?
cater for, yes, to cater for something.
Oh,
So either bake a cake for someone, or you know, cupcakes, or whatever you're doing.
oh, you
So
mean while they are there? You have to do this while they are there.
not while they're there, before they come to inspect. So then
Okay.
when they come in and ask you questions, they will ask you questions like, how did you store your dairy? How did you store your cake? How did you take the cake to the party, or the people who ordered the cake? Things like that. So you
Okay.
have to have an understanding and be ready to answer those questions.
Those
And
questions.
yeah, and they will give you a lot of materials to read beforehand, so you know exactly what you need to do. So then, yeah, and
Oh,
they
that's
they
really good. Because that's something that some people might not be aware of if they are going to start a food company, for example. And I'm sure there are other
yeah.
industries, like, let's say, childcare. There are other restrictions, or there are other criteria that you have to meet. So again, I think one thing that you said, which is really important, doing your research is key, because then you won't fall short on those requirements. You'll be able
Yeah,
to. And I
yeah,
know the government, the British government, have lots of information on the gov.uk website that can guide people and help people in this process, depending on their industry. So
yeah,
you've now gone through this process of inspection, and how then, because some people, let's say, for example, if you're providing food, let's say if you're an African food supplier, you're providing food for African parties, jollof rice or whatever. And I'm just thinking now through this whole process to try and help people in the chat. Where's a good place to get information from on how things should be stored? Because there is the way you do things at home, and then there's a way that you have to do things because you're now going to be giving that food to third parties. Where
yeah,
can you direct people as to where they can find certain information?
yeah, definitely. So if you go on the government's website, which is www.gov.uk, and then there's so many things on there, but there should be a separate link for businesses and food businesses. Um, so then you go on there, and then it directs you to a different website where it's for food and hygiene.
Ah,
So
right,
then
okay.
there's different documents on there to read. Do courses as well. That was another thing that is required to do.
For you to do a course.
You need to do a course, which is, it's more about how you store
Okay.
your products, which is, it's a requirement. If you don't have it, then you basically cannot operate.
And is that a paid course or is it available for free, the course?
It's paid,
A paid
but
course.
it's not a very big amount that you need to pay. It's a reasonable amount. Anyone could do it. Yeah.
Okay. So can you remember how much that was? Because I'm just thinking now this now creates a challenge or a barrier for some people, because
Yeah.
they might really have put all their resources, all their tools into actually starting the business. They know they can do it. They know that they follow those hygiene tips because
Yeah.
maybe they worked in, I don't know, a care home and they had to do some of those courses. So how much would you say that, how much was that course, if you can
So
remember?
I paid £50 for, because mine was for my business, and there were a few other things that I wanted to do just to have the complete experience.
Okay.
But then it depends on what you want, and it depends on your borrow as well. I think one of my close friends, she actually has the same business, but she started it a while ago, and she
Yes.
lives in a different borough, so hers was different.
Slightly
So
different, yeah.
yeah, so I think it depends on the season. It depends on where you live, where your company is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you really need to know what's the local laws and the local requirements.
Yeah.
So you're going to put that in at what temperature?
So you put this in a preheated oven on
Yes.
2000 degrees Celsius, and you leave
200.
200
Yeah.
Celsius, yeah. And you
Okay.
leave it in for about 10-15 minutes,
Okay. Oh, that's
depending
good.
on
Quick.
how big you made them. I
Yes.
didn't
Can
make
we have
them
a look
too
at the
big.
size that, can we just have a close up on? Ah, okay. Yes. And they will still
And
rise from that as well?
they rise a little bit, not
Mm-hmm.
too much, because I didn't add a lot of butter either.
Yeah.
I mean, butter makes it, the dairy makes it expand a bit
Expand
more,
as well.
and
And it's
also
self-rising flour.
the self-raising flour. But in this case, they're not going to rise too much
Okay.
because there's no egg either. So egg as
Ah,
well is another
ingredient.
leveling agent. Yeah.
So we're going to just start wrapping up now, and I really want to get into the business side of things of how people can take those steps forward. So you talked about, let's say, the payment of doing some of these courses. Would you advise, or let me just say, is that something that you can charge to the business? Could you put that as a business expense training?
Yeah. Yeah. So you open your own account, which is in your business name, your business's
Okay.
name, um, which you will use for when your clients order, and that is the account that all the money from your product comes from. And then at the end of the year, when you have to make your tax return, that will be part of your tax return. So then you have one account for everything, and then you have proof that this is what my earnings were, and this is how
The
much I
expenses.
spent for my ingredients, for buying the equipment I needed. So yeah,
Okay,
that's
so
really
that's really
important as
helpful.
well.
Is it quite easy to open a separate account for the company? Did it have to be a business account, or is it
Um,
just, or was it did you open a personal account but just put the name Ocravvings, for example? What would you advise people to do?
I would definitely advise people to go for a business account. There are different options out there, different banks. Sorry, find someone who's reliable, a bank that's reliable. They don't charge you interest. There are free options. You don't need to pay, a crazy amount of money to open an account. And then that's it. You just fill in a form like you would do if you were to open your own account. And some banks, they don't even need you to go in, and
Oh, okay.
they just send it via post. So
But then do you
definitely.
have to have the registration documents, or let's say your tax details, to be able to open that business account?
No, not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily. No. It depends again, it depends on the bank and
Okay.
what options they offer you.
So then you've got your bank account, you've got your website, you're ready to go, you've done the course, you've done your research in terms of the borough and the area you're living in. What are the rules in that area for you to be able to start trading? And what would you say would be the next step?
So the next step, after you've completed your registration, you went through all the legal documents and everything. That is the boring part.
Who do you do the legal documents with?
Sorry?
The legal documents. You were saying the legal. Mhm.
Yeah, as in the registration
Oh, I
and
see. Yeah, yeah.
the tax returns and everything. You can do it on your own, or if you prefer, which is the safest and easiest option, is to hire an accountant,
Okay.
and they would file your tax return every year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what a lot of people do. And there are
Mm-hmm.
options out there. You can hire someone just for one time, a one-off thing, and they could do it. And then when you need them again, you
You bring
contact
them back
them.
again.
And
But to be
then
able to do that, you still need to make sure you're keeping a good account.
yeah, receipts of everything, any
Mm-hmm.
receipts, any orders that you make, they have to be in your business's name, not your personal name. Preferably the address that your business is registered in, which is you're going to do that when you're doing your registration, and when you're when you're starting your business, basically when you're filing all the documents that you need to file.
Yes.
And then the next part is the creative part, in this case, in my case, which is to start developing your own brand, your
Yes.
own identity, because it's important. When you have a business, you want the business to stand out. You want people to see your business and say, this is Ocravvings, this is X, this is Z, and they need to know this is you. Um, and there's so many brands out there. When you look at a picture on Instagram, for example, or when someone buys a cake, you look at the cake and this is from Ocravvings, this is from that other company, because it's the own identity of the brand. And then as you go along, you you start creating more and more, and you're building your portfolio, you're making it better, you're making it more of your own.
Okay.
So it's going to take time to perfect and make what you want exactly how you want it.
So then your advice from that, if I get you correctly, is to actually, even though you're doing something that could be seen as generic, like baking, you have to put your own twist on it. You still have to have your stamp, your identity on it,
Yeah,
so that you stand out from the crowd.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
I've just looked at your website, and we were just having a look on there and enjoying some of those images. Um, what How did you go, or how do you go about the delivery process? We had a question in the chat asking you, where do the deliveries, how wide do you go for your deliveries?
Mm-hmm. Um, Mainly within London, but I also deliver in Oxford, Kent, and Cambridge. But it's mainly focused in London. Now, if there's a bigger order and people outside London, like I said, Kent, Oxford, or Cambridge, wanted to order something, then
Yes.
I can adjust that and we can work around that. It's definitely something that we could do.
Fantastic. And how do you go through that process? Because there'll be people who are thinking, logistics, how do I get my product or my service to the end client? What Can you give any tips, any company names, any processes on how to fulfill delivery orders?
So delivery orders, again, it depends on how you want to do it, depends on the demand. I would say start small, um, test the market, see what demands out there. In my case, I deliver the cakes myself because most of my cakes are quite big and tall, and I don't trust other people to deliver them. I want to be the one to deliver them, because then if anything happens, I can always deal with it. And because I'm running the business by myself, it's something that I want to have as a personal, I want to have that personal relationship with the client.
With the
So
client.
when I deliver the cake, I want to be the one, to deliver the cake and say, this is your cake. I hope you're happy with it. And yeah,
Okay.
if they're not happy with it, then I can always,
Actually
deal
discuss
with
and
it.
see what the, yes.
Yeah.
So a question, and that's quite similar to what, I don't know if you've ever watched this program called, I think is it Cake Wars or something?
Yeah.
It's an American show, and you see
Yeah.
them trying to deliver these massive cakes in
Yeah.
their van to
Yeah.
golf courses and to different birthday parties, but they deliver it themselves. So I'm going to come up to go on quickly to how you're going to scale up with that model. But before I do that, we had a question here from Jimmy, who says, do you have a dedicated customer service option? Now, you have just mentioned there that you're doing this at the moment on your own. How do you deal with, people that might not be 100% satisfied? Maybe a miscommunication happened. How do you deal with that?
There's a big, that is a big part of the business as well. And like I said, because it's my business, it's my own, it's my baby, it's something that I want to do myself. And if there's an
Yes.
issue, that is, an extra reason for me to be there, to answer the phone, to deal with it, rather than having someone else doing it for me, which it happens because
Yes.
this is how life is. And once you start growing and growing and growing, there's such a big demand that you don't have the time to do it.
Yes.
And you have other things that you need to deal with. But in my case, I would, client comes first. The client is always right. I had, cases of, I was waiting for the client. They wanted a cake a certain way. I said that is not going to work because the cake is very tall, and they insisted that they wanted more of, the center of the cake, which was caramel. And I
Okay.
insisted that, this is not going to work. So there's always that dilemma. Am I doing, what the client wants, but then risking,
The quality.
the quality, not just the quality, but the appearance of the cake.
The
Because
appearance,
if you're
yeah.
talking about a tall cake, you have to think about how you're going to stagger it and how you're going
The
to make it.
structure, yeah.
So then in that case, I said, my opinion, and I'm talking to you as, a professional and someone who's going to make your cake. If it's a cake that you want for your wedding and it's going to be standing there all night, probably for the whole day, it's not going to last. So I went with my gut and I said, I will not make a cake that is not going to stand. So I just
And
went
which you
with my
won't like
gut.
in the end.
And yeah, they wouldn't like in the end anyway. So I delivered the cake and they were so happy. The flavor was, what they wanted. It looked amazing for the for the whole
The whole
event.
event.
And it didn't even matter anymore. So I think there is a balance between, yeah, you have to listen to your client because at the end of the day, you are making the cake what they want.
Yes.
But as a professional and with your experience, better. And at the end of the day, you don't want to deliver a cake that they're not going to like. So, yeah.
You have to be diplomatic in your response as well, because it's a case of you can have exactly what you want, but these are the issues with what you've suggested, sort of thing. Is finding the way. So I've got a question here from Rashid Freestyler. He said, how did you get your idea or concept for the business? So we have sort of covered that, where you spoke about growing up and you were inspired by your mother and your grandmother as well. But can you just give, apart from what you've experienced, can you just maybe give us an idea of how you can suggest that other people, whatever field they're going into, how do they get that inspiration of what to do for their business?
Yeah. I mean, for different people, it's different. You could be someone who, had an epiphany, and you decided, oh, there's a big gap on the market, and I want to create something that no one else has created.
Yes.
So that's one way to go with it. Another way is it could be your background. Maybe you studied something and you realized, oh, I want to do this and I want to make it into a business.
Yes.
Um, for others is, oh, but I want to do this because I need this for my kids or I need this for my own self. I
So
know
it's the
people.
situation that creates the opportunity to start that business.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And the need, it might be your own personal need, it might be the, the what needs to be created in the world at this moment. We didn't have online shopping, um, you know, some years ago. We didn't have um, phones, we didn't have televisions. It took years to develop them and make them into smartphones and smart televisions, but it was someone's idea who sparked the whole process.
It
And
started in the mind and then
yeah,
move forward.
yeah.
So thank you so much for that. I'm conscious of time here and we'll be ending in 3 minutes time. So I really want to spitfire. I'm just going to ask you questions and I want you to just fire them straight back at me.
Mm-hmm.
In the UK, what are the things that people need to be aware about with relation to tax? Like how much tax would they need to pay from their business? Is there anything else tax related?
Um, it depends on your income. Like you would pay this, it works the same way as roughly as you would be, as it would work as if you were an employee in a different company. So it depends on your income. The lower the income, obviously, the lower the tax.
Okay.
And again, you can get professional help if you're not sure. But it's straightforward. The same way you would pay your taxes if you were to work for someone else, it would be the same way. But in this case, you are in charge of your own taxes, and if you have people working for you, then you are in charge, not in charge of their own taxes, but you're responsible for making sure that they are covered as well.
And everything's done above board.
Yeah.
Insurance. Is there any particular sort of insurance that you would recommend that business owners get?
Mm-hmm. Insurance for if something happens and someone complains, one of your customer complains, and you have the insurance to back you up. It could be insurance for your premises, your product, for your car. I have insurance for my car, which is different for delivering the cakes, and a different insurance if it was to be for
Personal.
private,
Okay.
personal use.
Yeah. Are there any top tips that you would give somebody who wants to start a business today? What are the main sort of 4 points that you would say, do this, do this, do this, do this, or be
Yeah.
aware of this? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say follow what makes you happy, what you love, what is real to you. Do your research before you start. It's important. Develop your own brand so it stands out, and follow the trends without copying the trends, but always thinking 3 steps ahead.
Oh,
So
okay.
you're in your mind, you're there before everyone else. So if someone's making, a 3-tier cake, yours will be an 8-tier cake. Or if someone's doing, shapes, you're doing, animals. I'm just giving an example.
So, yeah.
So you're making it bigger and better, not necessarily, too much over the top, but as long as it's different and it stands out and
It's unique.
your own
It's
unique design. Well, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, because I know this is really an important topic to cover, because there are lots of people there who are dreaming, who have desires, who have that itch, in their 9 to 5 work or whichever shifts they're doing. They have an itch to create something. They have an itch to get out of the system and do something for themselves. So hearing someone like yourself who's done it, who felt that unfulfillment at work and said, you know what, I need to do something about it. let me sit down, let me take some time to reflect and think
Yeah.
about what it is that I'm good at. And then now let me take the steps to actually turning this into a business. I think
Yeah.
it's really great to hear your story, and also the fact that you've taken time to share that with other people as well. But thank you so
Yeah.
much, Maria.
Thank you
And
for having
the
me.
cakes I think are still cooking up. The biscuits are still cooking,
Still
but
cooking.
we got to see the truffles. Can you show us the truffles again?
Yeah.
Oh,
Look,
lovely. There we go. Are you not tempted to take a bite?
I'm actually waiting for my dinner. So after
Oh,
my
so
dinner,
you're being very good. Virtual bite. Everyone can have a virtual bite from
yes.
Maria's kitchen. Thank you so much for doing that and taking the time, and also sharing your value set as well about being a go-getter and someone who likes to get things done. But is there anything final words you'd like to say to the viewers?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who have taken time out of the busy days to, tune in and be part of my journey, asking their questions. And hopefully, I hope you learned something. I hope I became an example to you. And if there's something that you're passionate about and you want to create for your own reasons, whatever those reasons are, I would encourage you to go for it and become the best version of yourself, because you can. There's so many examples out there of great businesses who started from the basement of their own homes, from just an idea, a simple idea, and it became into something bigger and bigger than life. Yeah.
Thank you
So
so much for the
hopefully,
encouragement. And don't forget, if you do decide to, if you're inspired and you decide to go out and start a business as a result of Maria's encouragement, then come back to this video, leave a comment in the comment section, and just let her know what it was that you actually did, or what hurdle she was able to get you through, whether it was through understanding the financial side of things, creating the company, or whether it was a case of just actually moving from doing the research before you jumped in. But thank you so much, Maria. I'm sure later on in the day you'll be able to enjoy those truffles.
oh, definitely,
But if you could
definitely.
just let us know, is there any way that people can follow you? We've seen your website, which is www.ocravvings.co.uk. And
Mm-hmm.
where else can people find you?
So I'm on Instagram and Twitter and also Pinterest.
Okay.
So if you're on any of those platforms, check me out, check my business out. Leave a comment if you like, if you don't like. No harsh feelings. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Maria. Take care for now, Maria.
Thank you very much. I hope you have a lovely evening, and I hope I've inspired you all.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for watching, and thank you to Maria once again, Maria Tatti, for coming on and sharing her experiences. I think one of the main important things to point out is you don't have to be, at the end of your journey to be able to share it. You might be going through something right now that somebody else is about to go through. And by sharing your life experiences, by sharing the things that you've learned, you could save them, half of the troubles that you went through, and therefore help them on their journey as well. And likewise, you can look forward onto other people who have done what you want to do and learn from them as well. So hopefully this has encouraged you to both pay it forward, and to those that are coming behind you, and also look forward to those who have made those mistakes, made those successes, learn from them so that you can apply that into your own life. But most of all, just keep on being your best self day by day. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll be seeing you again on the 16th of June, 16th of June. And I'm really, really excited about this one. We have a surprise guest, but we'll be sending the information out in the coming weeks to be able to let you know what it's all about. And again, an encouragement to get information from those that are going through the process day by day to become their better self. Take care for now, everyone. Thank you to everyone who left a question, and everyone who participated in the chat as well, and everyone who attended. Take care. Bye bye. See you next time.